The rain hammered down like God's own judgment on that sweltering July night in Brooklyn, turning the cracked sidewalks of our brownstone neighborhood into rivers of regret. I stood frozen on my stoop, umbrella forgotten, as the ambulance lights painted my neighbor's face in crimson strobes. Anthony, barely 18, his eyes hollowed out by a loneliness so profound it had driven him to swallow those pills in the dim glow of his empty apartment. "He's gonna make it," the paramedic muttered. But in that moment, as our gazes locked through the downpour, I saw my own ghost staring back. And I knew this kid wasn't just surviving tonight. He was about to unravel everything I'd buried deep. I never meant to play savior. At 35, Samuel Hayes, that's me, the divorced graphic designer with a one-bedroom walk-up and a fridge stocked with craft IPAs, was content scraping by on freelance gigs and the occasional blind date that fizzled faster than a cheap sparkler. Our street in Bed-Stuy was the kind of place where hipsters rubbed elbows with old-timers, where brownstones sported rainbow flags next to faded American ones. A microcosm of New York's messy, beautiful grit. But Anthony? He crashed into my world like a glitch in the Matrix. A fresh-faced transplant from some podunk town in Ohio. Wide-eyed and adrift. His beat-up Honda Civic parked crookedly in the spot next to mine like it was fleeing something. It started innocently enough, the way these things do in movies, but never in real life. 3 days after the hospital discharged him, pale as a ghost, his wrist bandaged under a too-long flannel sleeve, I found him fumbling with grocery bags on the stoop, rain-slicked and shivering. "Here, let me," I said, grabbing the handles before he could protest. His eyes, that piercing hazel that caught the streetlight like fractured glass, flicked up to mine. "You don't have to. I'm fine." But his voice cracked, and I saw it, the isolation, the way he hunched like he was bracing for a blow. "Bullshit," I replied, American as apple pie bluntness. "You're eating dinner at my place." No arguments. That first night, over takeout Thai from the spot on Nostrand Avenue, pad see-ew steaming on paper plates, we didn't talk about the pills. Instead, we bonded over the small stuff. His obsession with indie bands like The National, my dog-eared copies of Vonnegut stacked on the coffee table. Anthony was a college freshman at NYU, studying film, but he carried himself like a kid who'd been shipped off to boarding school without a goodbye note. "Parents back home think art school's a waste," he shrugged, picking at his noodles. "They want a pre-law." "Stability," I nodded, sipping my singa. "Stability's overrated. It's just code for settling." He laughed then, a real one, and something in my chest loosened, like I'd been holding my breath since my ex. Mike walked out 2 years back with half the furniture and all the trust. By week 2, our dinners had evolved into a routine. I'd text him after my morning run along the promenade. "Yo, rooftop tacos tonight," and he'd show up with that shy grin, his dark curls tousled from the humidity. We talked dreams. Mine of launching a comic series about queer superheroes in a world that still side-eyed them. His of directing a film that captured the ache of small-town queerness without the stereotypes. "You get it," he'd say, leaning back on my worn leather couch, feet kicked up on the ottoman. "Most guys my age are chasing hookups on Grindr. Me, I just want real. And God, did I get it?" I'd come out at 22, back when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was still fresh in the military my dad idolized. And the fallout had left scars, family holidays that felt like minefields, friends who ghosted overnight. But with Anthony, it felt easy. Too easy. We'd wander Fulton Street on weekends, dodging tourists at Smorgasburg, splitting a funnel cake dusted with powdered sugar while he sketched storyboards on napkins. One afternoon, as we biked through Prospect Park, the sun slanting through the oaks like shafts of forgiveness, he stopped by the lake, breath coming in puffs, Samuel, thanks for not treating me like glass. I ruffled his hair, playful, but my hand lingered a second too long, fingers brushing the nape of his neck. His skin was warm, alive, and in that heartbeat, I felt the pull, the dangerous, delicious gravity of want. Anytime, kid, I murmured, but inside, alarms blared. He was 18. I was a guy next door, not some rom-com lead. This was Brooklyn, not a Hallmark set, and lines like that got blurred. They got messy. Yet mess is where the heart lives, right? By August, the air thick with the promise of fall. Our evenings stretched into nights. We climbed to my roof deck, string lights flickering like fireflies. The Manhattan skyline a distant glow, and share stories under the stars. He confessed his first crush, a high school theater kid who bailed when rumors hit. I shared mine, a summer fling in Provincetown that ended in tears and a tattoo I regretted. Laughter turned to silence, the kind heavy with unspoken truths. And one night, as a meteor streaked across the velvet sky, Anthony turned to me, his face inches from mine. What if this is more than friendship? His voice was a whisper, vulnerable as a fresh bruise. My heart hammered, a drumbeat of fear and fire. I could have pulled back, cited the age gap, the fragility of his recovery. Instead, I leaned in, our lips meeting soft and tentative, like testing the waters of a storm-tossed sea. It was chaste, electric, a spark that ignited something dormant in us both. From there, it bloomed. Stolen kisses in the stairwell, his hand slipping into mine during late-night walks. We weren't shouting it from the rooftops. Anthony's family was old-school Catholic, the kind who sent passive-aggressive Bible verses via text. But in our bubble, it was pure, human. He'd crash on my couch after study sessions, waking to coffee and my bad jokes. And I'd catch him watching me with eyes that said home. For the first time since Mike, I felt seen, not as the reliable sidekick, but as the hero of my own damn story. But paradise in New York is always rented, and eviction notices come swift. It hit on Labor Day weekend, the block party thumping with reggaeton and barbecue smoke curling from grills. Anthony's parents flew in, unannounced. A surprise family check-in, and suddenly, our world shrank to polite small talk over ribs and coleslaw. His dad, Victor, was a burly ex-cop from Dayton, handshake like a vice, eyes scanning me like I was a perp. "Heard you're looking out for our boy," he grunted, clapping my shoulder hard enough to jolt my beer. "Appreciate it. City's no place for a kid alone." His mom, Elena, smiled too tight, her cross necklace glinting. "Anthony's told us all about your mentorship." The word landed like a gauntlet, and I forced a grin. Just neighborly stuff. That night, after they crashed at his place, Anthony slipped over, face ashen. They wanted to transfer to Ohio State. Say NYU's turning me into a lost soul. We sat on the fire escape, city hum below us, his head on my shoulder. "I can't go back. Samuel. Not after us." I held him close, whispering promises into his hair. "You won't. We'll figure it." But doubt gnawed. Victor's gaze had lingered too long, probing, like he sensed a shift in his son. The first crack appeared a week later, innocuous as a hairline fracture. I came home from a client meeting in Midtown to find Anthony pacing my living room, phone clutched white-knuckled. My roommate, Jake, he saw us at the park, kissing. Posted it on his story. Anonymous tip to my folks. Panic clawed his voice. I pulled him into a hug, but he stiffened. What if they disown me? What if they hate me? They won't, I lied, because love like his parents, conditional, ironclad, could snap like dry tinder. But as I stroked his back, murmuring, "We'll fight this," a shadow flickered in my mind, my own coming out, the way my brother had called me an abomination before going no contact for a decade. History rhymed, cruel and insistent. We hunkered down, a siege mentality. I helped him draft emails to his parents, honest but soft, framing it as exploring my truth. He crashed at mine full time. Our days a whirlwind of classes for him. Deadlines for me. Nights tangled in sheets that smelled of him. Cedar cologne and fresh laundry. Romance deepened. We'd cook pasta in my tiny kitchen. Wine glasses clinking to toasts to us. Against the odds, one evening, as leaves turned crimson outside the window, he traced patterns on my chest. Voice soft. "You're my anchor, Sam." In this storm, I kissed his forehead, heart swelling. "And you're my light." But anchors drag. Lights flicker. The betrayal came sly. Via Jake, the roommate. A trust fund kid with a savior complex and a grudge from some ignored party invite. He cornered Anthony in the dorm lounge. "All folk concerned, dude. That older guy, Hayes?" I looked him up. He was in the papers 5 years back, assault charge. Dropped. But whispers say he got rough with an ex. Predatory vibes. Lies. All of it. Mike's bruises were from a bar fight he'd picked. But headlines don't care for nuance. Anthony didn't tell me at first, but I saw the fracture, his touches hesitant, eyes darting like he was mapping exits. The misunderstanding bloomed overnight. We planned a getaway, cheap Amtrak to the Berkshires, cabins and foliage, but he canceled last minute. Text Kurt, family stuff. Rain check. I showed up anyway, heart in my throat, only to find him at a coffee shop near campus with Jake. Heads bent close. From the window, it looked intimate, Jake's hand on his arm. Anthony's laugh forced but real. Rage boiled. Hot and irrational. Was this payback? Me? The fool? Falling for a kid testing waters? I storm home, slamming doors, drowning in whiskey and what-ifs. He's playing you. Hayes. Always the side character. When he finally came over, 2 days later, eyes red-rimmed, I unloaded. "Saw you with Jake. If that's your out, fine. But don't string me along." His face crumpled. A dam breaking. "It's not, God. Sam. It's the opposite. He told me about you. The rumors. Said you're dangerous. That this is some midlife crisis power trip." The words hung. Venomous. I recoiled. The old wounds ripping open, Mike's accusations. The court's mutual fault, ruling that painted me villain. "And you believed him? After everything?" He shook his head, tears spilling. "I didn't want to. But the age thing, my parents' voices in my head. What if I'm just your rebound?" The room spun, accusations flying like shrapnel. Me, too guarded him, too fragile. Doors slammed, silences stretched, and by dawn, he was gone, back to his apartment. A wall between us thicker than brick. The silence that followed was a living thing, coiling around my ribs like barbed wire, squeezing until every breath tasted of ash. Days blurred into a gray haze. I trudged to the bodega for black coffee and protein bars, avoiding the mirror where my reflection mocked me with hollow cheeks and defeat. Freelance work piled up, mock-ups for a queer-owned apparel line that now felt like irony. But my hand shook on the stylus, lines jagged as my thoughts. Anthony's door stayed shut. No music leaking through the vents. No shadow in the window. Brooklyn marched on, oblivious, kids on scooters dodging potholes, vendors hawking halal carts under sodium lamps. But my world had contracted to the space between our units, a no-man's land of regret. I replayed it endlessly, the what-ifs a tormenting loop. What if I disclosed the arrest sooner? Framed it as the clusterfuck it was? Mike had come home drunk, swinging at shadows, his own demons from deployment, and I'd pinned him down to stop the carnage. Neighbors calling 911 before I could explain. Charges dropped, but the stain lingered, a scarlet letter in the digital age. Or what if I'd heeded the gap? 17 years. A chasm of experience? He'd accuse me of paternalism. But truth was, Anthony made me feel young, alive, like the city wasn't just surviving, but thriving. Now, I was adrift, texting Mike in a weak moment, missed the fight in you, only for him to block me again. Irony. Thy name is Heartbreak. A week in, Elena called, Anthony's mom. Number scraped from his phone during one of our happier spills. Her voice was steel wrapped in honey, Midwestern vowels clipping the edges. Samuel, this is Anthony's mother. We need to talk. Might get twisted. Had he outed us? Confessed the pills. The love? About. I hedged. Perched on the fire escape. City sprawl in different backdrop. Our son. He's withdrawing. Said something about a friend letting him down. Friend. The demotion stung, but I swallowed it. He's been through hell. The attempt. The move, it's a lot. Silence stretched. Then Victor and we know about his struggles. The orientation thing. We love him, but love means guidance. You're older, established. If you're influencing, the implication landed like a sucker punch, groomer, manipulator, the tropes that haunted every queer elder's nightmare. I'm not, I snapped, voice raw. I'm just trying to help, she sighed. A mother's fracture. Help by stepping back. Then, let family handle it. Click. Dead air. That night, I cracked, pounded on his door at midnight. Rain sheeting down like tears I couldn't shed. Anthony, please. Footsteps. Hesitant. Then the chain rattled. He stood there, hoodie dwarfing his frame, eyes shadowed. What? Flat. Guarded. I poured out the call, the accusations, my fear of losing him to their pull. This isn't about age or rumors. It's us. Real as the Hudson. He crossed arms. Barrier firm. Real? You hid the arrest. Sam. Jake showed me the article, designer in domestic dispute. What else you burying? The words eviscerated, exposing the rot I'd ignored. My own closet of half-truths. The therapy sessions where I'd admitted codependency was my love language. Toxic as hell. It was nothing, I pleaded. Self-defense. But yeah, I should have told you. Trust goes both ways. His laugh was bitter. Wind-scoured. Trust? You treated me like a project. Fixed a lonely kid. Pat on the back. I'm not your redemption arc. The accusation hit bone deep, because part of it rang true. I'd seen him as a mirror to my younger self, lost, yearning, and poured in what I wished I'd had. Stability. Affirmation. But love isn't charity, it's mutual fire. We argued till dawn, voices echoing in the stairwell, neighbors' lights flicking on like judgmental eyes. He accused me of control. I hurled back his cowardice, hiding behind Jake's poison. By sunrise, exhausted, we collapsed on his couch, not lovers, not friends, but survivors in truce. I need space, he whispered, head on my knee, to figure if this is mine or just escape. I nodded, throat tight, and left with the taste of goodbye. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting the sidewalks in russet decay, mirroring my unraveling. I threw myself into work, pitching a graphic novel to a small press, Echoes of Us, a tale of two men bridged by time, torn by secrets. It poured out, pages of shadowed figures in urban canyons, dialogues laced with Brooklyn slang and raw ache. Anthony and I circled each other warily, a nod in the hall, a shared umbrella on a deluge day. Sparks lingered, his brush against my arm sending jolts, but trust was a shattered vase. Shards too sharp to reassemble. Then the secret surfaced, insidious as fog off the East River. It started with a letter. Yellowed envelope slipped onto my door. Postmark Dayton. No return address. Handwriting cramped. Samuel, if you're reading this. Victor's gone too far. He never told you about the boy. Did he? Anthony's yours. Blood. M. M? My mind reeled, Maria. No. Elena's sister? Then it clicked. The fling. 20 years back. A weekend in Cleveland where Victor, my college roommate, closeted and charismatic, had confessed his bisexuality over cheap bourbon. We'd kissed, fumbled, but he bolted, marrying Elena months later. A phase he'd texted, then vanished into heteronormative bliss. I'd buried it, the betrayal fueling my cynicism. But Anthony? The math, timelines aligned. Hazy nights blurring into possibility. Heart pounding. I confronted the evidence. Old photos Victor had emailed once. Drunk and nostalgic. Anthony as a toddler with my jawline. My hazel eyes staring back. No. Couldn't be. Yet doubt not. A cancer. I needed proof. DNA kit from the Duane Reade. Swabbed in secret. Mailed off with trembling hands. Waiting was agony. I avoided Anthony. Excuses piling like autumn drifts. He noticed. Text probing. You okay? Feels off. I replied clipped. Building walls higher. The results arrived mid-October. An innocuous envelope that detonated my world. 99.9% match. Father. To my neighbor. My lover. The boy I'd pulled from darkness. Revulsion surged, incestuous shadows. Taboo thunder, but no. We'd stopped at kisses. Boundaries ironclad. Still, the revelation poisoned everything. Our bond, twisted by biology into something profane. Betrayal tripled. Victor's, for hiding it, mine. For the deception of ignorance. Anthony's impending shatter. I burned the letter in the sink. Flames licking paper like accusatory tongues. But truth doesn't ash away. I drove to Ohio that weekend. Unbidden. Rental car, eating miles under sodium glow. Victor's ranch house loomed in the suburbs. Porch light, a hesitant beacon. He answered in sweats. Beer in hand. Shock etching lines deeper. Sam? What the hell? Inside. Over lukewarm cores. It spilled. The letter. The test. The fury. His face drained. Confession tumbling. It was one night. Post-breakup with Elena. Panic. I couldn't. The family. The force. So I buried it. Lies cracked open. He'd known. Suspected. But denial was easier than DNA. Anthony's yours. Yeah. But I raised him. You're the ghost. We argued. Fists clenched. Old wounds festering. His rejection. My lingering love turned to loathing. You stole my son, I roared. Voice breaking. And now he's paying. Victor deflated. A man unmoored. Tell him. Or don't. But fix your mess first. Back in Brooklyn. The confrontation loomed like a guillotine. Anthony knocked one crisp evening. Cheeks flushed from jog. Oblivious. Missed you. Can we talk? For real. Over cider in my kitchen. Spiced and steaming. We bared it. Jake's recanted lies. An apology email admitting jealousy. My arrest full story. Therapy receipts as proof. Walls crumbled. Laughter tentative. Then, stealing, I slid the printout across the table. Read this. His eyes scanned. Widened. Comprehension dawning slow, then shattering. No. Dad? You. Horror. Then rage. How? Why didn't you? Words failed. Sobs racking him. I pulled him close. Not lover, but father. The roles colliding in cataclysm. I didn't know. Victor hit it. But you're mine, blood or not. You've always been. He recoiled, storming out into the night. Door slamming like finality. Days passed in radio silence. I wandered the park, leaves crunching underfoot. Memories mocking, our first kiss by the lake. Now tainted. Despair clawed. Had I destroyed us utterly? Society's gaze loomed. Taboo father-son romance? No, we weren't that. But optics damned us. Calls to therapists, lawyers, contingencies for custody battles. Though Anthony was legal adult. Yet beneath panic, love persisted, fierce and unyielding. November's chill seeped into the bones of the city, frosting windows and hardening resolves. But in my apartment, the cold was internal, a frostbite of the soul that no space heater could thaw. Anthony's absence echoed louder than subway rumbles. His door a sealed tomb across the hall. I catch glimpses, trash bags out at dawn, shadows fleeing light. Once, in a laundromat downstairs, our eyes met over spinning dryers, his accusatory, mine pleading, but he bolted, leaving quarters scattered like accusations. Sleep evaded me. Nights spent pacing linoleum. Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five open but unread. Billy Pilgrim unstuck in time while I was glued to this unraveling now. The psychologist I consulted, Dr. Rivera, a no-nonsense Latina with an office in Williamsburg smelling of sage and strong tea, didn't sugarcoat. This is a grenade. Samuel. Biology doesn't dictate bonds. But secrets do. You got to give him agency. Agency. The word mocked. I'd given him everything, shelter, love, a mirror to his worth, only to yank the pin with paternity. What if he hates me? I asked, voice small. She leaned forward, eyes kind but firm. Hate's a phase. Grief's the marathon. Let him run it. Her advice, a letter, raw and unfiltered, mailed not hand-delivered. So I wrote, pages spilling like bloodletting, apologies for the unknown, pride in the man he'd become, a vow to step back if that's his choice. You're not obligation. You're miracle, sealed, stamped, dropped in a blue box on Bedford, a surrender disguised as hope. Meanwhile, Victor's calls came sporadic, laced with guilt's gravel. He knows, he'd rasp from Dayton, Elena's voice murmuring in background. Yeah, and he's ghosting. Awkward pauses. Then, I should have told you both. After the divorce scare, Elena's suspicions, I panicked. Paid off a doc for amended records. Divorce scare? Pieces slotted. Elena's tight smiles. Her probing call. She'd suspected, perhaps known, the affair's fruit. Victor confessed more, his own closeted bisexuality. A Grindr app deleted in shame. Therapy abandoned when the force ribbed him. I loved you once. Sam. Wrong way. Now, it's poison. We ended calls civil. But the undercurrent was American regret. Men of a generation taught to bury feelings under bravado, only for them to erupt volcanic. Anthony's response came not in words but action, a knock at 2 a.m., snow flurrying outside like confetti from a funeral. He stood drenched, no coat, breath clouding. Can't sleep. Can't think. I ushered him in, towels and hot cocoa. No questions. We sat cross-legged on the floor, mugs steaming, the letter crumpled in his fist. It's true, he whispered, eyes searching mine, my eyes. Now inescapably. I nodded, throat constricted. Biologically, yeah. But Victor, he was your dad in every way that counts. I was the absentee shadow. Tears tracked his cheeks, mixing with cocoa foam. Why'd it have to be you? The one person who made sense. The pain layered. Loss of a known father. Complication of a lover. The Freudian knot tightening. We talked till false dawn. Dissecting the bomb. His anger at Victor, he lied to Mom. To me. For what? Optics. Morphed to sorrow for Elena. The woman who'd raised him solo after their split 5 years back. Her guidance, now reframed as armor against truth. My own floodgates cracked, the loneliness post-Victor, the string of failed flings. How Anthony's arrival had healed fractures I didn't know bled. I fell for you before the blood, I admitted, voice cracking. The man, not the myth. He reached then, hand tentative on mine, not electric but grounding. I know. That's the worst part. It still feels right. Wrong, but right. No kisses that night. Boundaries redrawn in stark relief. Instead, a pact, therapy together, family untangling slow. But peace is fleeting in narratives like ours, and the climax brewed in deception's wake. Jake, that serpent, slithered back, not contrite, but opportunistic. He dug deeper, screenshotting my arrest file, public record, but twisted. Anonymous email to Anthony's dean, student in unsafe relationship with registered aggressor. The backlash hit swift. Anthony hauled to advising. Questions veiled as concern. Is everything okay at home? While campus whispers spread like norovirus. He confronted Jake in the quad. Snow blanketing the ground. Voices rising. You out of my life for what? Likes. Jake smirked. All East Coast privilege. Protecting you. Bro. The guy's got baggage. Literally, your baggage now. The slip, how? Victor. In a drunken confessional to an old precinct buddy, whose kid was Jake's frat brother. Small world. Cruel connections. Anthony stormed to me. Fury incarnate. Printouts clutched. They know. Everyone knows. We barricaded, curtains drawn. Phones off, plotting defense. Statements to the dean. Jake's harassment reported. But the real detonation was internal. His breakdown in my arms. Sobs muffled in my shirt. I can't do this. The stares. The labels, son. Lover. Victim. It's too much. I held him. Fatherly now. Whispering you're enough. But doubt crept. Was I poison? Drawing him into my orbit only to eclipse? The decision loomed. Agonizing space. Permanent? Or fight? Risking more fractures? In a twist of fate's knife, Elena arrived unannounced. Train ticket stubbed, standing on my stoop in a wool coat dusted with Jersey snow. Where's my boy? No pleasantries. Inside, over weak tea, truths cascaded, her knowledge of Victor's fling, the accidental pregnancy she claimed to shield family honor. I loved him enough to raise you, she told Anthony. Eyes fierce. But lies? They rot. To me, you're not monster. Victor painted you that, jealous rival. But seeing you too. It's messy, but human. Her blessing. Reluctant. Don't lose each other to ghosts. Victor called then. Speakerphone confessional. Apologies. Vows to come out publicly. Therapy for all. Betrayal forgiven? Not yet, but bridged. The high point crested that night. Rooftop under a canopy of flurries. City lights blurred to halos. Anthony and I stood apart at first, breaths mingling in clouds. What now, he asked, voice small against the wind. I stepped close, not touching, but near. Whatever we choose. Friends. Family. More, if time allows. He turned. Hazel meeting Hazel. And in that gaze, mirrored souls, resolution sparked. More, he echoed, tentative smile breaking. We embraced then, chaste and profound. The romantic core untainted. Two men, forged in fire, choosing light. No grand gestures, just presence, American resilience. Love as verb, not fairy tale. Yet drama demands dissent, and controversy stirred. Tabloid vultures, tipped by Jake's circle, sniffed the scandal, queer neighbor secret, incest twist, sensational slop. Facts mangled. Protests erupted online. Protect our youth petitions targeting me. While queer forums rallied, love knows no DNA. Anthony's film class project, a short on hidden paternities, went viral, flipping narrative to empathy. We lawyered up. Statements issued. No romance post-revelation. Bond platonic. Truth bent, but held. Winter gripped Brooklyn in its icy vice, transforming the neighborhood into a monochrome dreamscape where every breath hung suspended, a fragile testament to endurance. Christmas lights twinkled defiantly from stoops, carols piping from radios in yellow cabs. But for Anthony and me, the season was a gauntlet of firsts. Awkward family Zooms where Victor's forced jollity clashed with Elena's quiet grace. My brother's radio silence appointed absence. We'd carved a new normal, weekly therapy sessions in DR. Rivera's sage-scented office, dissecting the revelation shrapnel, movie nights with platonic cushions between us. Brokeback Mountain rewatched, not for heat, but healing. Touches were rare, a shoulder squeeze, a hug lingering on goodbye, yet the undercurrent thrummed. A bass note of what-ifs harmonizing with resolve. The unexpected discovery had reshaped us. Alchemy turning leaden secrets to golden clarity. Anthony dove into his film, Fractured Lines, interviewing queer families on hidden truths, raw footage of tear-streaked faces echoing our own. This is bigger than us, he'd say, editing till dawn in my living room. Laptop glow casting shadows like old friends. I'd brew coffee, offer feedback, tighten the close-up on that regret. And in those moments, pride swelled, paternal and pure. No longer the age gap specter. I was guide, cheerleader, the dad who'd arrived late but stayed. But conflict simmered, embers flaring to remind us peace was earned, not given. Jake's reckoning came swift. University probe, suspension pending expulsion. His tearful apology rejected by Anthony in a coffee shop showdown. You weaponized my pain for clout. We're done. The finality empowered. But scars lingered, trust erosion. The way crowds now parted for Anthony on campus. Whispers trailing like exhaust. He confided nightmares. Victor's face morphing to mine. Accusations of unnatural bonds. I hold space. Not solutions. Murmuring you're safe. But internally, guilt gnawed, my existence the catalyst. The deeper rift yawned with Victor. Spring thaw brought confrontation, a tense diner meet in Dayton. Formica tables sticky with syrup ghosts. Elena mediated, her presence a balm. But father-son and father-father, dynamics crackled. Anthony unloaded. You erased him. Us for what? A badge. Victor. Hollowed by retirement's boredom. Admitted fear. The force. The church, being by was suicide note. To me, I envied your courage. Sam. Out and owning it. Envy to betrayal. A cycle broken in halting truce. Weekly calls. Shared custody of stories. Not DNA. Humanistic. Messy. No Hollywood redemption. Just incremental grace. Misunderstandings. Those old saboteurs. Reared once more in May's bloom. Cherry blossoms shedding like confetti regrets. Anthony's short premiered at an NYU showcase. Intimate theater in the village. Seats filled with profs and peers. I sat front row. Heart pounding prouder than any pitch meeting. The film unspooled, grainy interviews. Anthony's voiceover raw, blood lies. But love excavates. Climax, a reenacted embrace. Actors mirroring our rooftop moment, evoking not lust, but longing for belonging. Applause thundered. Q&A glowing. But post-reception, a prof cornered me. Powerful work. Inspired by life? Her tone probed. Implications veiled. Scandal bait? Anthony overheard. Later exploding in the cab home. You think I'm exploiting us? Therapy fodder for art. I defended. It's catharsis. Kid, but doubt seated. Was I supportive or spotlight stealing? The argument escalated in my kitchen. Dishes clattering like gunfire. You hover. Sam, like I'm still the suicidal freshman. Let me breathe. His words lashed, echoing my fears of overreach. The paternal instinct clashing with equality. I fired back, and you push, testing if I'll bolt like Victor. Silence fell, brutal. Then tears, his mind mingling apologies. I'm scared, he admitted, slumped at the table, of losing you to this. Label. I knelt. Eye level. Labels are bullshit. We're Anthony and Sam, survivors. Period. Resolution in vulnerability. The misunderstanding dissolved, not in grand gestures, but quiet admission. We were both afraid. Both human. Summer solstice brought the unexpected pivot, the discovery's true gift. Anthony landed an internship at Tribeca Films, scouting locations in the boroughs. His energy electric. We bike to shoots, me tagging as consultant, sharing falafel from trucks parked crooked. One sweltering afternoon, scouting a derelict warehouse in Red Hook. The skyline, a hazy mirage. He paused amid graffiti-scrawled walls. Remember our first walk? Here, I did, the rawness, the pull. Now, with sun dappling through broken panes. He turned, expression luminous. I love you, Sam. Not as dad, not as savior. As you. The words hung, controversial in context, yet pure in intent, romance reborn. Boundaries blurred but honored. We navigated slow, dates redefined, picnics in the park. No physicality till trust rebuilt. Societies I lingered, a tabloid retraction too late. Forums debating ethical queerness, but we armored in authenticity. Victor visited, awkward barbecue on the roof. Elena's potato salad, a peace offering. My brother called. Finally, gruff, heard the news. Proud, crack in the ice. Betrayals healed. Not erased, decisions weighed. Anthony deferring Ohio pleas. Me pitching echoes successfully. Imprint queer and unapologetic. Climax, crested Labor Day redux. Block party redux, grill smoking. Reggaeton pulsing. But this time, hands intertwined openly. Victor grilled. Elena danced with Anthony. And as dusk fell, stars pricking the smog, we slipped away to the promenade. The East River lapped, fairies horn crying, and in that hush, Anthony kissed me, soft, claiming, the most romantic frame, lips meeting under a canopy of bridges, city lights reflecting in his eyes like promises kept. No controversy quelled it, just us, defiant in tenderness. Yet the story arcs humanistic, not saccharine. We chose more partners, co-authors of a life, but with eyes open, therapy ongoing, boundaries as flexible as Brooklyn streets. Anthony's film won a student award, dedicating it to fractured families. Whole in pieces, I watched from the wings, heart full, knowing the unexpected wasn't the blood, but the bond, love, in all its dramatic, disputable glory, forging family from fallout. In the end, as autumn wheeled again, leaves turning in Prospect Park, we walked hand in hand, conversations deeper, Silence is comfortable. Loneliness conquered. Secrets aired. Misunderstandings mended. Not perfectly, but Americanly resilient. Raw. Real. And in that, salvation, not for one, but for us both.